Hello everyone, this is Colin once again. I'm making this video because I just finished watching The Passion of the Christ, directed by Mel Gibson. Now, I had intended on making this video a while ago, actually, but I never got a chance to actually um, essentially order the movie through Netflix, and then I was able to it finally arrived at my house, basically. So I just finished watching it, and the reason why I am wasting time watching The Passion of the Christ, the movie, is because the last time I watched the movie was when it came out in theaters. Now, I'm 19 now, almost 20, and I can't remember when this movie came out. But the point is that it's been a while. I think it came out when I was in, I don't know, maybe eighth grade or something like that. So it's been several years, and at the time when I saw the movie, it really had a huge impact on me, and I of course didn't know anything about the New Testament or any of the historical contexts that are depicted in the movie. And so now that I've done all the research that I have on comparative religion, I thought this would be a good time to watch the movie again and just see where Mel Gibson either was dead on about a lot of things or if he was way off on anything. What sort of theatrical things did he embellish? And does this alter or affect the way the average Christian or the average person who is interested in the story and the passion of Jesus Christ, does this affect their studying of the subject matter if they were to look at this strictly as if it were fact? The first major issue I have with the film is that Gibson basically takes all four gospels and puts them together into one story. And he really didn't have to do that. The Passion is rather similar between all four gospels. Of course, there are some differences in the way that it's treated in the Gospel of John. So I suppose he would have had to have gone with either a more suffering Jesus in the as depicted in the synoptics, or he would have to have gone with the Superman Jesus as he is portrayed in the Gospel of John with regards to how his attitude is with the cross and all of that. But really, that's all he would have to have decided on how he was going to do that. Regardless of that, the point is that he juxtaposes all these verses, all this piece of dialogue, all these little tidbits. Jesus sweating blood is only in Luke, and yet we see that in the Garden of Gethsemane. And I guess it's a good place to start, is the Garden of Gethsemane, because there's a lot of concepts that are brought forward that are not even in the Gospels. For example, there is that person who we can never really tell is a woman or a man with a bald head, and we can only assume that it's Satan because of the symbolism with the snake that comes crawling from beneath her feet or his feet and towards Jesus when he's praying in the garden. And actually, let me backtrack a little bit. I'd never noticed this before, but before the movie starts, the text of Isaiah 53 about that he was bruised or hurt for our transgressions and things like that. So right off the bat, Gibson sets this tone which is very biased. In other words, that he posts this text to try and tell you that everything that's about to happen is, of course, related to Isaiah 53. Of course, does that really surprise me? No, because a lot of Christians actually believe that Isaiah 53 has something to do with the Messiah. So Gibson is now playing to a certain audience by doing that. But anyway, going back to the fact that we have this bold it thing in the garden with Jesus, I noticed that Jesus actually in the movie stomps on the head of the snake, which, of course, to any good evangelical Christian or Christian that's obsessed with so-called messianic prophecies would know that that is signifying the so-called prophecy where the snake would bite the heel of the seed of, or the sons or children of Eve, of Adam and Eve, and that the child would strike its head. So again, playing to the whole prophetic messianic prophecies here, so-called, excuse me. Then later on, we have some other interesting. And by the way, none of that happens in the Gospels. Right off the bat, we are left to wonder what's the deal with that. Another thing that sort of defies history and yet is fascinating is one thing that is the way Pilate is depicted. Pilate is depicted as a very sympathetic man, as he is in the Gospels, but of course we know this actually contradicts his historical character, and Gibson even gives him a piece of dialogue which is not founded anywhere in history, where Pilate's talking to his wife, who's begging Pilate, don't put this guy to death, because I've had this dream about him, and Pilate responds, you know, uh, the, the thing is that the emperor who has told me that if there's another rebellion, it's going to be my life, my neck. And the thing is, there's no historical record for that. We have nothing historically that tells us the Pilate was threatened by the emperor. From my understanding, that he needed to, if there was another rebellion on his watch, things would happen. He was really good at putting down rebellions. In fact, Pilate was one of the most unsympathetic governors of Judea that it ever saw. He was that brutal, and he didn't care about if rebellions started. That was just a good chance for him to kill people or order the deaths of a whole bunch of people. So his sympathy, as depicted in the Gospels, and Gibson's extra motive is really not founded anywhere. Another thing that's interesting is that I find that the villains are speaking the truth in the movie. For example, when the it character that we can assume is the devil says to Jesus, you know, it's impossible for a man to carry the sins of all mankind. No one has ever done it before. It can't be done. How ironic that I'm sitting here watching this movie and I go, you know what? The devil, the character who is supposed to be the devil is telling the truth. How ironic. Because according to Jewish theology, and it would be safe to assume, I mean, biblical scholars such as Bar Ehrman have attested to this, and many scholars he speaks for, is that no Jew in the first century believed that Messiah was going to be killed for the sins of mankind. And so it's highly unlikely that his disciples would have actually been aware or believed in this theological concept. But of course, I'll visit that when I do videos on those key verses and on the Acts of the Apostles, where we get to see whether the apostles even preached that message. But I also found it ironic that one of the Pharisees during the trial of Jesus, the so-called trial of Jesus, one of the Pharisees yells out, "This council is a disgrace. Where are the? Why are we meeting in the dead of night? Where's the rest of the council? What is going on here?" And I was sitting here going, "Wow, that Pharisee was correct, because according to Jewish scholars and historians, that trial, as depicted in the Gospels, the trial of Jesus would never have happened the way the Gospels say it happened. It goes against every single piece of evidence and every single way a trial was conducted by the Sanhedrin court. The trial of Jesus contradicts every single point. Therefore, it is not historically sound. So I'm laughing as a watching this movie. I'm laughing because the villains are actually speaking the truth in the film about what they're observing. Another interesting point is that I guess the only other things to really note is the heavy embellishments in people's attitudes. Also, the fact that they have both. This was fascinating. Gibson has Simon of Cyrene and Jesus carrying the cross. However, if you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and Luke, it's just Simon of Cyrene that carries the cross. In John, Jesus carries the cross by himself. Simon is not mentioned. So how does Mel Gibson solve the issue? Oh, he just has them carry the cross simultaneously. Fascinating. Oh, and what about the demon children that attack Judas in the movie? You guys ever notice that? The little demon Jewish children that go rampaging after Judas and then he hangs himself? I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. I mean, that's not in the Gospels, but I guess Mel Gibson, any chance to throw in some demon children is well-founded, apparently. Beyond that, I can't really think of anything else. Everything else was just heavily embellished. The flashback scenes were actually probably the most authentic bits of the entire film. I'm going to be posting a link in the description section to a video that does show an interesting point in the flashback sequence when he tells the disciples about the Comforter. He does mention the dialogue in the language is that he does say the name, I believe he says the name Ahmed, which I thought was kind of interesting for the Muslims watching this video. But I'll post that in the description section if I can find it. Just another little random tidbit for you. And other than that, it was interesting watching it again. So thank you everyone for watching this video. Peace be with you all.